So my name is Zhaodan. I'm an assistant professor from the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering department here at UC Davis. I joined the UC Davis at the beginning of this year. And shortly after I joined the university, I met Star Wars. And then he talked to me about the People and Robotics Initiative. And I'm pretty excited about this new initiative because it aligns pretty well with some of the work that I'm currently working on and some of the work that I'm planning to do in the future. So I'm mostly interested in these two research topics. The first one is bio-inspired robotics, and the second one is human motion systems. So these are two quite different research topics. But from my opinion, they are kind of related in the way that they share quite similar principles and methodologies. For instance, both of them, they need knowledges from two different sides, from the science side and from the engineering side. From the science side, they both need knowledges from biology, cognitive science, and psychology. And from the engineering side, they both need knowledges from controls, robotics, and so on and so forth. And the knowledge transfer happens in two different directions. In one direction, the knowledge that we learned from the animals and from the humans, we can use this knowledge to help us to design better robots and better human-machine interfaces. And in the other direction, the insight that we get from modeling, from analysis, and from implementing robotic systems can also help us to get a better understanding of a lot of these biological and cognitive systems. And today, I'd like to share you two of my projects that I've worked on. So the first project is related to bio-inspired systems. So lots of us knows that so lots of these flying animals, such as bats, hawks, and also swallows, so they can exhibit so very robust and dynamic flight in a very complex environment. So for instance, to give you an example, so the animal that you see at the corner is called a Mexican free-tailed bat. So it is quite small. So the wingspan is less than 20 centimeters, and the weight is approximately 50 grams. But this bat can fly as fast as 10 meters per second inside of the forest. And this is well beyond today's engineering systems. And then the question is whether we're able to transfer some of the knowledge that we learned from these flying animals, such as bats, to help us to design a better UAV so that it can potentially match the performance of these animals. And in order to study these bats, so we went to Texas. So in Central Texas, there are lots of these bat caves. So the colony size in some of the bat caves are quite large. For instance, some of them, they have millions of bats inside the caves. And for this particular colony, so we know the route that they normally take each day to go to the food source. And then we put a pole on the route, and then we make observation for 5 consecutive days. And we would like to see so how these bats react to this new pole, and then how they can adjust their behaviors so after they know the existence of the pole in the next few days. And we use 3 thermal cameras to track these bats, and then by synchronizing the videos that we took from these 3 different thermal cameras, we're able to reconstruct the 3D trajectories of the bats. And we can also use acoustic sensor to collect the echolocation course of the bat. So this video here shows an example of the data that we collected. So in the middle of the frame, you can see the pole, and then this red dot here indicates the locations that this particular bat made echolocation course. And then we are able to make lots of very interesting observations. So one of these observations is related to what can be called the group behaviors or the collective behaviors. So in this particular case, we are interested in these leader and follower pairs. So if there is a leader-follower pair, there is a leader, and then there is a follower. So the follower must try to somehow imitate the behaviors of the leader. For instance, if the leader turns left, and then the follower must also turn left. If the leader turns right, and then the follower must also turn right. And there is a certain delay between the turns of the leader and then the turns of the follower. And here we use this concept, which is called directional correlation delay, to capture this delay. So basically, the directional correlation delay is defined as the time distance between the turns of the leader and then turns of the follower. And then we can draw the histogram of these delays, as you can see by this green curve. And from the histograms, we're able to draw this blue curve, which is the cumulative distribution function. And then we have this black vertical line here. So this black vertical line is the summation of two quantities. So the first quantity is the time that is needed for the echo to travel back from the leader to the follower. And the second quantity is the reaction time of a typical bat. So the summation of these two quantities is the least amount of time that is needed for the information to transfer from the leader back to the follower if echolocation is used by the bats as a following mechanism. But what you can see from this figure is that for approximately 1/4 of the bat, so they have a bat pairs, so they have a delay that is shorter than this summation. So which means that at least for this 1/4 portion of bat, so they are not using the echolocation as their mechanism to track to follow other bats. And then we argue that the top candidate for the mechanism that they can use is vision. And then the big picture is, so the bats actually are collecting data by using different sensory modalities, such as vision and echolocation. And then by integrating this information together, that's the way that they can enable their robust and then agile flight. And by integrating the data we collected from the bat and also the model that we have of the bat flight, we can also learn some control algorithms that the bats are probably using. And we implement the control algorithms in some of the quadcopters that we have, as you can see here. And these quadcopters can fly autonomously both in outdoor and indoor environment. And currently, we are working on building our own aircraft platform. And our hope is that we can translate some of the knowledge that we have on how bats can integrate different informations into this new aircraft design. So that's the first project. And the second project is related to human-machine systems. So lots of experienced pilots, so they can perform very complex tasks within very complex environment. For instance, this clip here is taken from a video about the drone nationals. So drone national was held not far from Sacramento. And in these competitions, so each of the pilots, they wear a FPV goggle, and then they can control the quadcopters remotely by using a joystick. And what you can see from this video is that so the pilot can exhibit these very aggressive behaviors. And then there are two questions. The first question is, so first of all, is it possible for us to build an autonomous vehicle so that it can match the performance of the experienced pilot? And then the second question is, so is there a way that we can optimize the interface between the pilot and then the aircraft in such a way that the interaction or the collaboration between the pilot and the aircraft is natural? So for instance, we want to guarantee that the information that the interface provided to the pilot should be consistent or compatible with the pilot's cognitive capability. And then we carried a series of experiments in our lab. So in each of these experiments, the pilot is asked to fly in a small toy helicopter from one of the starting locations to the goal. So they were asked to fly the helicopter as fast as possible and at the same time avoiding all these obstacles that we placed on the field. And we were able to collect two different types of data. So the first type of data are related to humans' low-level sensory motor behaviors. For instance, this can be the controls that are used by the pilot, or it can be the trajectories of the helicopter. And another type of data are related to what can be called the high-level decision-making processes. So in this case, we collect this kind of data by using eye tracking glasses, as you can see here. So this is the experiment from the pilot's perspective. And then the red circle here indicates the pilot's gaze location. And by integrating these two different types of data, the lower level, those data related to the low level sensory motor processes, and those ones that are related to the high level decision-making processes. And then we are able to make some very interesting observations. So the first of them is related to the trajectories of the helicopters. So these are the trajectories we collected from one of the subjects. What you can see from this figure is that there is obviously some similarity between the shapes of the trajectories within region A and the shapes of the trajectories within region B. And there is actually a very elegant explanation to this. So Emily Forzoli and others found that for most of the man-made vehicles, so there are some symmetry that are inherent to the dynamics of these vehicles. For our particular case, so this is the helicopter that fly by the pilots, and then the symmetry group of this helicopter is SE2, and SE2 is exactly the similarity that here we found between these two sets of trajectories. So what it means is that actually the pilots, they are exploring the symmetries that are embodied, that are inherent to the dynamics of the vehicles. So in other words, the pilots using the same control strategy to complete the task within region A and also to complete task within region B. And we can call these control strategies as a skill. So basically, the pilot is using the same skill to complete tasks within region A and to complete tasks within region B. So that's our first observation. And our next observation is related to the pilot's gaze data. So what you can see from this video, this red trajectory is the trajectory of the helicopter, the white one. And then the red trajectory is the trajectory of the pilot's gaze locations. So one thing you can see is that the pilot's gaze trajectories is not as smooth as the helicopter's trajectory. And another thing that you can see from this video is that from time to time, the pilot's gaze location jumps from one location to the next. And we call these jumps as the saccade. And here, if we draw a histogram of the saccade, you'll notice that so the majority of the saccade, they are concentrated near the corner of this obstacle A. So we call the area that attracts a lot of tensions, attracts a lot of saccades as the subgoal. So basically, in order to complete this task, so in order to fly from the red corner to the upper left corner, the pilot divided into two simple subtasks. The first subtask is to fly from the lower red corner to the subgoal, and then the second one is to fly from the subgoal to the upper left corner, which is the final goal. And in order to check her progress towards this subgoal, the pilots need to attend to this subgoal from time to time. So to put these two evidence together, so the big picture is like this. So if a pilot wants to complete a very complex task, for instance, if the pilots want to fly a small toy helicopter from one of the starting locations to the goal, based on her skill set, she decomposed this very complex task into a sequence of simpler ones. So each of these simpler tasks corresponding to a skill or corresponding to a particular control strategy. And then the switching between these different skills happens at subgoals. And this subgoal attracts lots of attentions, attracts lots of saccades from the pilot because the pilots need to check her progress towards these subgoals. So essentially, the way that humans to tackle this very complex task is to use a hierarchical organization. So that's the end of my talk. So currently, we are working on extending some of the models, some of the algorithms that we developed in these two projects to study a new research topic, which is human-swarm interactions. So the goal of human-swarm interactions is pretty straightforward. So the goal is to enable a single human pilot to control a swarm, a group of UAVs, or a group of robots. And we are looking forward to the result that we're going to get from this research topic. Thank you.